Hello, hello, kings, queens, and everybody in between. I'm Ashley Michelle, and welcome back to another episode of the Goddess Complex, season three, baby. We came out of the gate pretty strong with season three, and we're coming even stronger. I have yet another guest for you, two for one for the month of July. Those of you that have been hanging out with me for a little while know that I normally do one guest a month, but your girl's getting booked and busy with the guests. They want to be on the Goddess Complex, and we love that. So I actually have a returnee, and I'm going to go ahead and link Alden's first episode with me in the show notes so you can get to know more about her and her work. But I'm so honored to have you here today, Alden. Alden of Alden's Energy Healing. Tell the people who you are, what you do, what sort of magic you create, all that good stuff.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Alden Gagnon, she, her. I've been in Ash's universe for a couple of years now, and I am a mystic witch and intuitive. I'm an energy healer, so I do Reiki. I'm a Reiki Master, Advanced Crystal Master, and then I'm also a breathwork and meditation facilitator, as well as a Let Your Yoga Dance teacher.
And what part of the world are you located in?
I'm currently in the Isle of Manhattan in NYC.
Oh, I love it. And
hmm
your big three?
My big three: Sag Sun, like you,
My Sag
Queen,
sister.
Leo Rising, and a Taurus Moon, which is right next to my midheaven for extra
Ooh.
astrology nerdiness. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Amazing. So today I wanted to dig in with you as a fellow spiritual entrepreneur. I'm sure all of you listening have really been enjoying this tea with
Mm.
just different spiritual entrepreneurs in the field and how they work. And I hope you all are just gaining so much juice and wisdom. And so today I wanted to talk about retreats. I wanted to talk about study abroad, almost travel abroad,
That.
magic abroad, and what that can mean for us as spiritual workers and also us as spiritual entrepreneurs.
hmm
And the beauty that can be created when we are traveling and we're working our magic and connecting with others in a traveling situation. Both of us are Sagittarius suns, so we've had our fair share of travel and group travel. How do you feel about retreats, Alden?
I love traveling. I love
Yeah.
retreats. Not only am I a Sagittarius sun, but I have like I know you've seen my chart, like a big fat
Hmm.
Sag stellium.
Yeah.
And both of my parents are Sages with a big fat Sag stellium. And my poor brother, he's an Aquarius. I took my first trip when I was less than 6 months old. I did a cross country
Wow.
train trip across
Wow.
the continental US. And I I truly couldn't live without
Yeah.
traveling.
Yeah,
I
same.
had a really hard time with my spirit during
Hmm.
the deep pandemic, like when we were in quarantine,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I mean, I was enjoying being home at my parents' house. They let us stay with them, which I was grateful for in New Hampshire, but not being able to like go places and experience
Hmm.
other cultures and other food and other
Hmm.
lands and connect to other spirits
Hmm.
of the land and meet new people and engage
Yeah.
in different types of history was really, it like felt like a part of my soul was missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truly. So I actually remember I went on a ton of soul journeys then. I would just be
Hmm.
in my little childhood bedroom, which is all fairy themed, by the way. It's literally painted
This
with
is
like
the
a
fourth
fairy
time this week.
garden. Wait, what?
This is the fourth time this week fairies have come up to me. I don't know if the fairies are calling my name, but it's the fourth time
Mm,
this week somebody has been in my presence discussing the fairy realm. And I'm like, okay, do we need me? Should
you're
I
like
should I leave
heard.
something out? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Pour some
Funny.
milk out. Actually, milk is a great
Yeah.
offering to the fae, like along your
Y-
boundary line of wherever you
Yeah, yeah,
live.
yeah. I will do
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Um,
really getting this is something that's coming through. This is they're like saying like specifically cream they want. Just
okay.
FYI.
I
Yeah.
got some cream. I got some
Yeah.
cream. No, we can
Sure.
definitely do that.
Share your coffee
Yeah.
cream.
Oh my God, my coffee. So I definitely have some cream, but I don't think anything's by coincidence. And this is
Yeah.
literally the fourth time the phase come through for me this week. Um, no, I totally agree with you though. I firmly believe I wouldn't even be here with you right now if it wasn't for travel. Some of my
Mm.
deepest connections to Pachamama, Gaia
Mm-hmm.
herself, were in the Amazonian rainforest,
Me
just literally
too.
walking barefoot
Mm-hmm.
And I can't explain it, like you said, and it was like realizing like Earth's heartbeat, which let
Yeah.
me know like we are a part of the Earth. I like came back to my witchiness, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and
think as a contemporary society, we get so disconnected. Like I literally live in a high rise in New York
yeah,
City right now. Like
yeah, yeah.
can be so easy to be
Hmm.
disconnected from the earth and
I
from the
agree.
land. And I
Yeah.
just this past week was at a retreat at the Omega Center in Rhinebeck, New York. I did the Rise Sister Rise retreat with Rebecca Campbell. And not
Rise,
only was
sister,
that
rise.
amazing,
Yes.
yes, to be
Mm.
with this amazing group of 80 plus women identifying folks, but also just it's sort of like a camp, like it looks like Dirty Dancing camp. And we didn't do any dirty dancing though. And we not only was it amazing to be with the women, but also like on every break, I would go out and walk across the great field and just put my hands to this maple tree that became my friend during the week, put my forehead against it and
Mm.
connect to the energy of the tree, of the land, and like be barefoot and really, really ground and feel the pulse of
Feeling the
the
pulse,
aliveness
exactly.
of the earth
Hmm.
and being connected to it.
It's so funny, slight tangent.
Yeah.
The trees, man, we know the
Mm.
trees speak, and I've always had a deep connection with the trees. And being on the show, I mentioned this big ass black walnut that I have this crazy
Yes.
connection with in my backyard.
Mhm,
And people that
mhm.
have been following my work for so long are like, you talked about the tree, because I've always talked about the tree. And I say that because it's a testament to connection with the earth. And I think personally, when it comes to identifying as a healer, a root worker, a spiritual worker, a witch, a mystic, a light worker, whatever you want to identify as, I think rule number one is recognizing our connection with the earth and how important it is to always come back to that. And I think retreats can be a really great space for us to do that. I live in like such a hipster
Mhm.
neighborhood here in Rochester, tons of bars and breweries and all of that stuff and just lots of cement. And I think it's so important to remember to come back to God, come back to
Yeah,
source, come back to
it
spirit.
is. And it's lovely to have rituals like weaving. Rebecca Campbell, who I just had the retreat with,
Mm,
talks about her big thing is about like weaving the sacred into your day-to-day life and
yes.
bringing that in day-to-day life. And that's really important. That's something I totally do.
Yeah.
And day-to-day life can also be really wild and stressful. And I mean,
Hmm.
I literally got back last night and I've been like cleaning the apartment and doing laundry and organizing my
Yeah.
closet. It can be so easy to get into these
Hmm.
day-to-day life things that pull you away
Hmm.
from full presence with your core alignment.
Hmm.
And just being able to be in a space that's a dedicated, like even 2 or 3 nights, like, okay, I'm gonna find my core, come back into alignment, ground into the earth, connect with people
Right.
who really see me, you
Yeah.
know, who
Yeah.
really get me, who I can be open with like weird and wild woo woo self, not be
Yes,
afraid
that
of
part.
judgment.
Hmm.
It's really soul healing.
Very
And
much so.
it gives me a like marking marking point. I feel
Yeah.
like every 6 months I feel this call, like I need
Hmm.
something
Something.
to
Yeah.
just like, like a little flag.
A witch always
Yeah.
needs a witch.
Yeah.
I think as workers in the field, we forget about that, but it's very important for us to know that we can only be the strongest version of ourselves when we are working on our own healing journey actively,
Yes.
whether we are laughing until we cry or crying until we laugh, doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
Um, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Rebecca Campbell's work, she has done a lot of oracle decks.
Hmm.
I personally think, probably the most famous for Letters to a Starseed, an amazing book. I'll link in the show notes. Go
Hmm.
grab it. She's got great work.
She's
She's
great.
got
I
great work.
also She just came out with the Ancient Stones Oracle, which I
Ooh.
did the activation for it online, and then she actually signed my little guidebook for it.
Ah.
And I've been really, because as I mentioned, I'm also a crystal healer, and I've been
Mhm.
on pilgrimages on retreats to different megalithic sites around the UK, such as
Yeah.
Avebury
Mhm.
and in Wiltshire in England. And that connection, she really is great at like putting the codes that are in these places, like going to places I firmly believes help you download the codes of that
Yeah.
area. But she's great about putting the codes of these places and the essence of these things into the work that she creates. It's
Yeah.
very potent.
Yeah.
And she really embodies that too, which is
Ah.
amazing.
So good, so good. I want to speak a little bit, you kind of touched on it already, but the connection, right? The connections we create when we are on these retreats, these pilgrimages, when we are truly seen, when we're in spaces to be mirrors of one another. It's the age of Aquarius, right? The age of
Mm-hmm.
technology. I talk about it all the time. It is insane to think of like, we're in the same age group, of being
Yeah.
in a space where like, we were leaving the message on the answering machine at home to now like holding little computers that are thousands of dollars in our hands. It when you stop and think about it, it really is
It's
wild
wild.
to see how quickly,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
technology has moved in. And there is something that I think is still so pure about retreats because we're in that space of human interaction, not through a
Mm-hmm.
screen?
Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Both of us have mainly online spiritual
Right.
businesses, and I love it. And
Exactly.
again, in terms of weaving the sacred into everyday life, having online connection, it's like it's been crucial for me at certain points in
Yeah.
my
Crucial.
spiritual growth when I felt really alone and I felt like no one else understood what I was
Yeah.
going through, or no one where I was living wanted to like celebrate the summer solstice with me. So I
Right.
joined an
Right.
online coven and was able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
5 years later, I'm out with Celeste Larson, also known as Beige
Mm-hmm.
by Moonlight, on the Isle
Mm-hmm.
of Skye and in Oban in Scotland,
Insane.
literally like at an ancient castle celebrating the summer solstice on that was on June 21st of
Wow.
last year. And being able to be on that
Wow.
land and the vibration of that land, where so
Ah,
many
I'm getting
megalithic
chills.
monuments, and me too, right?
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps.
Are centered around the solstices and the equinox.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was so special and so sacred. So there's just
Yeah,
like the online is important a
it is.
1000%
It is. Yeah.
for especially day to day. And if we live in more
Yeah.
rural areas,
And
being able
yeah,
to
there you
connect
go.
and feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from personal experience that that
Mm-hmm.
in-person connection to the land and to the
Yeah.
people who have also been drawn, like whoever the retreat facilitator is and wherever the land
Right.
is, like the types of people who will get drawn to those facilitators and those locations are people who are also in similar parts of their path, or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
on certain steps deeper in their path, and they can kind of
Mm-hmm.
give you seeds of knowledge and
Right.
connect with you and help you feel seen. And it's really just like the convert, like a lot of the most valuable moments of I went on a retreat in Sedona with Bridget Nielsen, who does a lot
Mm-hmm.
of starseed work last
Mm-hmm.
March. Uh, and there was like the moments at the dining table talking about how we became really awakened and connected to our star seed essence, our light essence.
Mm-hmm.
And at
Mm-hmm.
that point I was really grieving my late dog Jasper, who,
Mm-hmm.
as I had always felt a connection to Syrian star seeds, but as he passed, that really deepened for me. And there's
Mm-hmm.
I have some stuff on my YouTube about that if you want to go deeper on that.
Yeah.
But uh, being there with these other people, this was specifically a women's retreat who also had awakened to their, galactic essence,
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
validating and so heart healing.
Validating.
And we
Yeah.
wouldn't have had those chances to talk if we'd
Mm-hmm.
just been taking, an on demand masterclass online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think validating is the perfect word, especially in this work that we do. The collective is in a deep space of healing, and you know that I've been calling this a sort of spiritual revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our work is finally being seen in mainstream places.
Yeah.
There's a huge eye on the work that we do, and honestly, thank God, because our work saves lives. I truly do believe that. And it is truly validating when you are sharing space with somebody and you can be your woo-woo self and you can talk about galactic heritage. You can talk
Mm-hmm.
about the angelic realm. You can talk about that time when you astral projected. You can talk about that moment where you knew something was about to go down and like you literally saw it happening. Like your deja vu was times 10. It wasn't just normal deja vu, which is like, totally happened to me. You get that deja vu and it's still going. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're gonna pick up the red pen next, and then they pick up the red pen, and then they're gonna put it behind their ear. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? And to be able to be in spaces and share spaces like that without judgment is truly
Mm.
priceless, whether it's online or in person. But there is
Yeah.
something so beautiful about it being in person and truly being able to create connections. I know Shasta was a really beautiful
Mm.
experience for me. The an insane amount of healing and purging that was done on top of that motherfucking mountain with all of those women, myself included, was overwhelming in the best way. Um,
Mm.
I think it's a mixture of the being in person and also the location. And
Mm-hmm.
also, like you said, the folks that are drawn to that facilitator, because
Mm-hmm.
who is for you is for you. It's something I always say, you know, our people will always find us. We just have to keep being ourselves and showing up. And then they
Yeah.
will they will gravitate towards us. And so when we can create these spaces or be a part of these spaces, it is a level of healing that I just truly believe is so priceless.
I agree. And is Mount Shasta is considered the what is it, the crown or the third eye of the world? Do you
I believe
remember?
it's the crown.
The crown. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that makes sense
yeah.
because I was in when you were talking, I was reminded of last June, right before I was in Scotland, I went to Glastonbury again with
Mm-hmm.
Bridget
Mm-hmm.
Nielsen. Right after Beltane was in Glastonbury, and Glastonbury is in the western part of England in Somerset, and it's
Mm-hmm.
considered the heart chakra of the world. And it also
Mm,
used to be um, an island. It used to be what is it was known as the Isle of Avalon in myth, and
mm-hmm.
then the water got drained, and now it's like plains are around it. But I could feel really energetically the borderline of where the water used to be as I was like driving into Glastonbury. It was like this membrane that I went through.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then physically being there and going to the Chalice Well and being in the Magdalene Chapel and going on the ruins of the abbey and being near where Guinevere and Arthur are supposedly buried, the
Oh my God, wow.
energy I was able to
I love
receive
shit
was
like
just
that.
like it was truly insane. It was like a homecoming for me.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was staying at the Abbey House, which was like so magical. If you're ever in Glastonbury, I highly, highly, highly recommend staying at the
The
Abbey
Abbey
House. They were
House.
wonderful. Yeah. And I really felt like a homecoming. I actually did a whole rather spontaneous series, like a vlog on my Instagram of my just the downloads I was receiving and my experiences of
Hmm.
my time in Glastonbury. If you look through to my posts from June 2023, you'll see them
Okay.
because it was such a potent experience. And then
Yeah.
the other people who were on the trip were also getting these wild downloads, and we would just like go to the local pub and like sit and
Hmm.
share our experiences because
Hmm.
it was like my heart being just like blasted open, and I can only imagine
Right.
for you it was like your crown being
Oh my
blasted
God, I
open
was
in
blasted the fuck
Shasta.
open. I sobbed, babe. We
Mm,
were on that mountain and we had stopped and allowed all of our crystals to charge. So I brought my Lemurians with me because they're my
mm,
little road dogs, right? Whatever
yeah.
I'm reading the Akashic records. And so they're just charging. And Paula Venus was the gentleman that was guiding us. And I almost blacked out. I can't quite
Mm,
remember what was happening. I just know that I felt one of my specific guides that's always been with me right around me and was just like, I got you, girl.
mm,
And woo! I just let it go. And I don't even know what I was letting go, but I knew that I needed to let it go. And it could be, being an oldest child, have being in a high stress part of work, obviously my spiritual work isn't as high stress that I'm talking about television friends. It's high stress. You guys stress me out. But like, so it's like, I don't know what it was, but it was this beautiful release that I was able to have on that mountain. And it was almost like leading up to that day, the mountain was preparing me for it.
Mm,
Where we were staying, we had perfect view of Shasta, and I would go out and ground every morning and just be in communication with Shasta. And I knew that I was there to do some crazy healing
mm,
work. And when we actually climbed up the mountain, was when, okay, let it go. Just let it
mm.
go. And it's just such a beautiful experience. Oh my God. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you for sharing
Um,
that. How
oh
do
my
you
God, of course.
feel like being in that container in Shasta was amplified and also almost like I'm getting the image of like held and secured by being
Yeah.
with the specific group you were with?
Yeah. I felt so safe. I
Mm-hmm.
felt so, so safe. And so contrary to what one might think, but your girl got trust issues. So I don't always feel safe being vulnerable with people,
Mm,
it's that same old be strong type vibe. And so to feel so safe with this group of women and to be as emotionally vulnerable as I was truly a gift. It
mm,
was a gift that I didn't know that I needed, and I don't think they knew that they were giving. And a lot of folks were moved to tears that day on that mountain. And we held space for every single person who was going through whatever the fuck they were going through. People were busting out in light code song everywhere, myself
mm.
included.
Oh my God,
Just,
I'm getting
but
crazy
it
crown
was
chills. Yeah.
insane,
Mm-hmm.
insane. And just a beautiful experience that I can't really put a price tag on.
Yeah.
Which is one thing I wanted to mention. I'm sure people listening are like, all of this sounds absolutely great, but I've looked up retreats before and, they're always X amount of dollars or a four-figure investment, sometimes a five-figure investment based on the retreat. Um, what would you say to folks that are considering doing a retreat, but they have money wounds, aka
Mm,
price objections? And let me just be clear to listeners here. I'm not saying that like I don't want it to come across like I'm saying like, oh, you need to see the picture a bit bigger. But what I am saying is that money is neutral and money is a master teacher. And oftentimes we let our lives be dictated by the almighty dollar when we need to recognize the neutrality that money is. And at the end of the day, our decisions are ours. Hopefully that makes
yeah.
sense.
And
Yeah.
also, disclaimer of this isn't like go into untenable debt and
Yeah.
stress yourself out and push yourself.
Right.
That's not
Right.
what I'm saying at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more like realizing for me as someone who creates things like there's you gotta like crunch the numbers and
Yeah.
you're paying for the retreat house which
Yeah.
costs tens of thousands of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and you're
Definitely.
paying for all of the food, and you're paying for
Definitely.
your assistant to help you out, and then
Mm-hmm.
also the amount of certifications you've gotten and the amount of training you've done and the space you hold. There's a value to that. And
Right.
sometimes retreat facilitators, they're like just barely breaking even with
Barely.
those price
Yeah.
points, especially in this, paradigm. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I'll be real, I like don't even really remember what the price was for a lot of the retreats I've been on in the
Me
past couple of
neither.
years
Yeah.
because once I was there, even for a couple of them, I was like, oh, how am I going to do this? And I did like a
Yeah.
10-month payment plan and I just like took
Mm-hmm.
it in baby steps. But once I was there, I'll be real,
They're
like none of
priceless.
that mattered
It
because
doesn't.
being in that space with space being held by a grounded facilitator,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with like-minded souls, connecting to the spirit of the physical place, and the soul nourishment and the grounding and the rootedness and the reactivation that gave
Right. The
me,
reactivation. Yeah.
that's really what mattered because then I'm able to go back to, quote unquote real life
Right.
and be nourished and be more
Right.
present, to be a kind and loving partner to my husband
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
care of my dog and the space that I live in. and help hold space for my clients
Right.
one-on-one group.
Right.
And also, this really wants to come through. So my grandmother passed late April of this year. She helped raise me. I
Mm-hmm.
was extremely close to her. Her spirit is still with me. I actually did a
Mm-hmm.
mother line healing at the retreat this week, and she was there in
Mm.
spirit with me. And she was like, I understand the work you do now that I've
Oh,
passed, which was so hard
yeah.
healing for me to hear.
Yeah.
But my point is she traveled a lot,
Yeah.
especially once she separated from my late grandfather and really
Mm-hmm.
stepped into her own power and her own worth, like in
Yeah.
her mid 50s. From her mid
Yeah.
50s to her mid 80s, she traveled so much. She was total cool,
Yeah.
total badass
Yeah.
woman, really inspiring. And in the last couple of years of her life, like during the pandemic, and as she started to be more housebound, she would always say to me, like, whenever I'm sad or I feel kind of floating and more or less, I just think back to the memories of trips I took with you all. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, and those memories make me so happy. And
Yeah.
those memories give me a sense of purpose again. She would specifically say
Yeah.
the trips and the women's retreats she would go on. And then
Oh
even the
my
trips that I
God.
took, like when I went to England and Scotland last year,
Yeah.
I made a little shared album, added her to
Mm-hmm.
it, and at this point she was housebound, but she would be commenting on all the photos, and she'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it feels like I was there." So even me living
Mm-hmm.
my life and expanding into my joy by going to these
Yeah.
places and being on retreat vicariously supported her
Yeah.
too.
And also I think what you're speaking to is so important. And I think what you're speaking to is like when it comes to wanting to do these things and wanting to spread our wings, we need to think about the life that we desire and deserve to live versus the life that we
Mm,
are living.
yeah,
And, we are so bound by limiting beliefs. Somebody thinking that's listening right now, I would love to go on a retreat to Bali, but that's just not in the cards for me. Nobody in my family's ever gone to Bali. I can't go to Bali. What
yeah,
would I do in Bali? We are so bound
that
by these limiting beliefs,
programming.
the
Yeah,
programming. And I think when we allow ourselves to expand, this is when the growth happens because we recognize in these experiences specifically that we are so much more than what we thought we were. I have learned so much about myself while being abroad. So
yeah.
much about the work I'm supposed to be doing here and my
It opens
connection
your
with God,
mind.
source, universe, so much, so
Mm,
much. And it cuts off those cords that you have with previous versions of yourself that were
yes.
great when they were there, but are no longer needed where you're going. And so for me personally, and I feel this way for you too, not to speak for you, but traveling through a spiritual lens is a form of expansion.
5,000%, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
going back to the, money programming
Yeah, yeah,
question
yeah.
you asked,
Yeah.
just because what you said had a little ping for me about the
Mhm.
programming, even around thinking, like, why you couldn't do it, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And it's like, is that because someone told you that when you were a kid? Is
Right.
that because you think you don't deserve it? Is that because you think
Right.
that is not for you? And it's like,
Mhm.
but what does your heart want? What are you being
Right.
led to do? And so much about like taking that leap to saying yes to yourself and saying yes to this
Yeah.
expansion that
Exactly.
traveling does do helps release you from a lot of that
It
programming,
does. It's
or at
so
least,
true.
shake it up a little bit.
Shake it up a little bit and to recognize like, hey, maybe I am a product of a program and maybe I no longer wish to subscribe to that program. Maybe I want to create a new program. Maybe I want
Mm,
to create a better program. Maybe I want to attune to a higher frequency. And all of that is
mhm.
valid and okay. Alden, question for you. How
Yeah.
have some of your spiritual travel helped you be a better spiritual entrepreneur, a spiritual worker, all of that?
Oh my goodness. in so many ways, I think to give a few more concrete examples,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking particularly of this moment on the Isle of Skye where I had done a soul journey during quarantine during the deep pandemic, where I was connecting with some ancient ancestors, and I specifically connected to this Fey ancestor in northern Scotland named her. She wanted to be called Sage,
Mm.
and she took me to this stream, and I remember the stream had a rocky bridge that was a little arch, and she was like, "This is by where the fairy water is." And she's like, "I need
Mm.
to put," she had like a line down her face like this, and like fiery red hair and braids. And she took the water on her hands and she anointed me. And this wasn't a soul journey. She
Oh,
anointed
wow.
me down my face like this. And for those of you not watching
Yeah.
the video or who can't see the video, it's like from the top of my forehead, like down, center line down,
Yeah.
over my nose, over my lips, over
Mm.
my chin. And um she anointed me with the water there. And she really was like, you can come back to this place anytime you need like revitalization
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
connection to the ancestral fae. I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. And then right before summer solstice last year, June 2023, we were on the Isle of Skye on this retreat with Celeste Larson that I did. And our wonderful guide, Tom, he's like, okay, now we're going to Sligochen Bridge. And I was like, okay, cool. What is that? And we get out of the bus and I'm like, oh my God, this is a stream I saw. It literally
Wow.
had the, like, Google it, look up Sligochen Bridge. It's like that exact
Wow.
arc of a rocky bridge. And the myth
Crazy.
around that is that a woman from one of the clans who were the people of the Isle of Skye, she got
Mm.
her face injured, I think in some sort of horse accident, unfortunately. And she was able to put her face in the waters of this river. And when she lifted up her face, it had been healed.
Wow.
And now the myth is that you can put your face in the water for 30 seconds. And when you come up, it like gives you youth and beauty. You know, it could be
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
maybe like a cold water therapy type thing.
Yeah, yeah, right, right, right.
Yeah.
But
um,
still, we're feeling
yeah,
yes.
totally. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was just so wild that it was what I had done the soul journey
Yeah,
to. And then it
that
was
is
like
wild.
there, and I could physically be with it and I could physically touch
Mm-hmm.
it. And the streams came down from these um mountains that were just so majestic. And then you could hike up the stream a little bit and go to the fairy pools, which are these
Wow.
little pools you can swim in that are part of the river.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so powerful to be able to really seed where I had, traveled with my soul into
Right.
like this tangible, touching thing
Mm-hmm.
and be
Mm-hmm.
like, the
It's
sacred
another
is
form of
here.
validation.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
another form of validation. And it was also, yeah, it was, yeah, like exactly what you said. It was a form of validation of like what I am experiencing as I'm going on these soul journeys isn't just
Yes.
me like making up shit,
Making it
you
up.
know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is real and this is
Mm-hmm.
here, and
Yeah.
this is something that, Sage wanted to show me
Exactly. So, so,
for a
so, so
reason.
true. I love that. I love that. And it's definitely a testament to the power that retreats can have when it comes to strengthening our spiritual
Mm,
practice, right? And
yeah.
strengthening our soul-led practice. Because when we have almost kind of like out-of-body experiences like that, that reminds me of the first time that I astral projected. I sobbed like a
Mm,
little fucking baby because I was like, holy shit, this is all real. It was like one of those moments where it was like every book that I read, every other witch I had come into across with, every dream I had had, it's all real. The first time
yeah.
I jumped out of my body and saw my body, I was like, holy fuck, you know? Then it got a little scary, but that's a whole other podcast, friends.
What you were saying about like the spiritual practices,
Yes,
like grounding it in
yes,
spiritual practices, because there have
yes.
been some like fire releasing rituals or intention setting ceremonies that
Mm-hmm.
I've done on retreat that even like the act of doing it with other people means like, okay,
Yeah.
this helps with almost like my cellular memory. So then
Mm-hmm.
when I go back and
Yeah.
do it in my solo witchcraft practice,
Mm-hmm.
I have it in
Right.
me, you know? And
Exactly.
also, actually, Rebecca Campbell was saying this a lot this week of you don't need to share everything that's happened on the retreat
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
in the motherline healing journey we like did a thing where we went down to the caverns of the earth and we were held in the womb
Mm,
of the earth mother and it was amazing and it was very healing.
yeah.
I connected to the crone goddess Sheila Gig, and I was like
Mm,
breathing with her and it was beautiful.
yeah.
And Rebecca Campbell, she was like, it's so hard to explain, especially to someone who like hasn't experienced something similar themselves, what it
Right.
is because so much of it is
Hmm.
experiential. And once
Yeah.
you've
It's
like you were
actually a
saying
great
like
way to put it. That's a
the
great
astral
way to put
projection,
it.
it's like you can
Hmm.
read about it all you want, but until you go do it, you don't
Until
really
you
get it.
I feel like that is such a theme for spirituality in general. Rebecca Campbell took the words. Thank you for sharing that because that's exactly the word that I was looking for. Our work is experiential. Like you're not going to really understand it until you are inside of the work. And then it all makes sense. And it's like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, you know. God, I love that you said that. So as far as in your spiritual entrepreneurship journey, how has studying abroad, I hate the term studying abroad because I know what you guys did think that we're talking about college, but I do say study abroad because I do think when we go abroad as spiritual workers, there is a level of study. You know, I
Oh
was
yeah.
studying Shasta, you know what I mean, while I was working and healing with Shasta. So that's why I'm using that term for anybody who's listening. But how has it helped you as a spiritual entrepreneur? Because as we know, friends, entrepreneurship is hard as fuck, but we do it
Yeah,
because
I
we
know the
love it. It's
truth.
a labor of love. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, deep breaths around that.
Right.
For me, it's restorative and rejuvenative.
Yeah,
Like it's literally
yeah.
me time. Like
Hmm.
I'll put, I'll put it on my Alden's Energy Healing business credit card because I am studying, I am learning,
Yeah, 100%.
and it's also a time for me to rejuvenate so that I
Hmm.
can go back and support my one-on-one clients even more, my group
Right.
clients even
Which
more.
is a good point, friends. These are tax write-offs.
Yeah.
If you have an LLC, this is a tax write-off for you.
Yeah, Alden's
Saying.
Energy Healing LLC. Whoop
Yeah,
whoop.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
um, what was coming through really strongly while you were asking that question was I just kept hearing downloading the codes of the spirit of the place.
Hmm.
And there's
I
information
would
that sure,
agree.
like I was talking about with Slagachin Bridge on Sky, like you
Hmm.
can go do the soul journey, but being there and putting my feet on the rocks
Right.
and I anointed myself with the water on my face, like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
ancestor had done in the journey. It literally like helped me integrate the codes more and like going to Sedona and feeling the energy of the
Hmm.
vortexes like going up through me like a Bellagio
Yeah.
fountain
Yeah.
or tingling in my quads and grounding
Right.
into my feet like
Yeah.
this ultra mega grounding mat machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was like again going back to the experiential, that was something that like I could read about or hear like, oh, it's vibey there.
Right.
But
Right.
going and being like, oh, I'm going to this vortex 2 3 times and every single time I feel that same exact tingling
Right.
in my quads like a magnet
Hmm.
is there. Like
Hmm.
that, downloading that those energetics is very powerful, and maybe that's something you could speak to from an astrology standpoint
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
of how with the chart is different based off of where you are located
Right.
in the
Right.
world. I'm actually probably going to go on a trip for my solar return this year because my chart isn't quite the vibe I want it to be on the East Coast. So I'm probably going to go
Hmm.
somewhere to have my solar return chart be the vibe I want it
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're just literally receiving the phrase I keep clairaudiently hearing is different sun code energetics.
Well, yeah, for sure. It's almost kind of like if anybody, to put it for basic, for anybody who's brand new to astrology, right?
Mm,
It's like when we're looking at the southern part of the world versus the northern part of the world, right? We're in a new moon, they're in a full moon, or vice versa. You know, so we've got like a full moon in Capricorn coming up at the time that we're recording this. You know, I've got clients based out of Australia. They're not looking at a full moon in Capricorn. I couldn't
mm,
tell you what they're looking at because I don't have the chart in front of me, but they're looking at like almost kind of like the opposite. And so So depending on where you're at, which is why I always say whenever I do astrology stuff, I'm looking at it from a New York based time,
Mm-hmm.
because even if you're in New York versus Arizona, it's going to move things a little bit for you, which is going to change the influence the stars are going to have on you. And that's one piece of it. And astrocartography is another piece of it. And
Mm.
astrocartography is simply looking at places that are going to align well with your vibes. So you can do it right at astro.com. If you know how to read your birth chart in general, you should be able to read your astrocartography chart. If not, hit me up, starseedchatters.com. I'll help you out. But based on where your Jupiter line is, for example, it's supposed to be like pretty much from the time of that you were born. What astro.com will do is generate a huge map of the world. And based on the longitudinal and latitudinal lines, they'll create where Jupiter runs through, for example. So using Jupiter as an example, what countries, cities, places, oceans that Jupiter was running through at the time that you were born. And those places are said to be places of great luck. For example, Saturn, if you look at your Saturn line, those are going to be harder places with a lot of life lessons.
Mm.
Venus, places where you'll find love, your midheaven, places where it's going to be easy for you to get work. Chiron, lots of soul healing, right? And those are places where there's going to be tons and tons of soul healing. Jupiter actually runs through Ecuador for me, which I thought was,
Mm.
yeah, I thought that was super, super fascinating. It runs right through
Interesting.
the corner of Ecuador. So you can learn a lot about that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
think that's super
interesting because
important.
so I have my moon line, and like I mentioned, my
Hmm.
moon is right next to my midheaven.
Yeah,
When I first got my astrocartography chart read, and now I just reference it myself because, like you said, your birth
yeah,
chart, if you know how to read your birth chart and you
you
have a
can get
general idea of what
there.
the planets mean,
Yeah,
you can get
yeah,
there. And also astro.com has like good little write-ups on the side if
it
you click
does.
on the lines.
Hmm.
But I opened my astrocartography chart and there's the moon line, and then there's this big moon line circle. I forget what the like hub of the moon line is called,
Hmm.
but it's literally right over Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And my husband is Puerto
Hmm.
Rican, and
Yeah,
he's helped me, and we visit his parent, his mom still lives there part-time. And every time we visit, I just feel so at
fucking
home there.
crazy.
I feel so
Yeah.
nurtured there.
And
And
our
like
moon is our emotional body, friends.
exactly. I feel
Yeah.
safe, and I just I float in the waters off of
Mm,
Boquerón, and I just
mm.
feel like the salt cleansing me. And when I
Um,
saw that the high point of my moon line was in Puerto
wow.
Rico, I was like, I can't believe that this man I've been with for 14 years, like
Yeah.
his ancestral home is this,
It's right there.
And so that's when you said that thing about your Jupiter line being in
Yeah,
Ecuador. I
and
was like,
Ecuador, yeah,
ding,
because my
yeah.
husband's from Ecuador, and
Yeah.
people still say astrology isn't real. It's fucking nuts. So Alden, I want to
Yeah.
talk a bit more about what you have coming. So, um,
Mm,
you are hosting a retreat very soon
yes.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Why did you choose it? And why did you decide to even host a retreat? Like we've done all this deep conversation on going. You could
Yeah.
have just been the person who goes. So
Yeah.
what made you decide to, no, I want to do this for others?
Yeah. It was really a soul calling
Yeah.
initially. Like, you just have to follow the breadcrumbs of your soul
Yeah.
calling. And when your heart is feeling the pull, I've learned the hard way far too many times that if I don't listen to it, I end up
Hmm.
regretting it. And
Yeah.
also, like I
Yeah.
mentioned, I'm a Sag Stellium.
Hmm.
My mom used to plan all of our trips that we went on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I've planned dozens of trips for my family and my hubby and my bachelorette party.
Hmm.
And I'm like very good at it.
I believe that. Yeah.
And
Sagittarius are good at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something I love to do.
Hmm.
And so I did a survey for what the and like 40 plus people filled out this survey, and like a lot of people were interested in the energetics of coastal Maine. And
Yeah.
I am from coastal
Okay.
Maine originally. I was born in Portland, Maine. My late
Okay.
grandmother lived on a beautiful island in Casco Bay,
Oh.
Acosisco.
Mm,
And that's the Abenaki name for Casco Bay. And
mm,
uh it's just been a like, that's the place where I first was when I was born, right? I was literally on
Yeah.
the Isle of Pemisong, on my grandma's sun porch, like, receiving the sun codes of this part
Yeah.
of the earth, and it's
Yeah.
a very magical land, it's a very sacred land,
Yeah.
and it's a place that I go whenever I need to restore my soul.
Mm.
It is a place that I go whenever I need to connect to that liminal space of the edge of the land, connecting to the edge of the water, and feel the pulse of the waves, feel the pulse of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
My aunt also lives on the island where my grandmother used to live, and she's lived there most of her life. And she's like, she literally feels like she is part of the island. Like her physical body
Mm-hmm.
is like integrated with
Mm-hmm.
this island.
Yeah.
And I chose to have the retreat in Freeport, Maine, which is coastal Maine, about 40 minutes north of Portland, Maine, and
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to be on the water where people could feel that pulse and that flow. And because of the geography of Maine, especially coastal Maine, it's very jagged. There's a lot of islands and
Right.
peninsulas, and so the tide is very intense. Like you
Yeah.
live by the tide. Like if you
Yeah.
leave your boat out at the wrong point, you're like stuck on a mud flat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
feeling the pulse of the water and the pulse of the land is very important to me. And the reason I chose summer in Maine is because things are so full and so blooming, and it's going to be under a moon in Libra, which is a time of
Ooh.
harmony and balance and love and connection. And when I connected into the themes I wanted for the retreat, I just kept seeing fireflies and fairies and connecting to the trees. So we're going to be doing like tree spirit connection hikes and connecting to the fae. And there's a sauna
Mm.
on site, which was like
Ooh,
important for
yeah.
me. As well as a
Definitely.
fire pit for fire releasing rituals. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a vegan macrobiotic chef on site giving us all of our meals and nutrients with
Yeah.
food. I'm going to be doing all of my different healing modalities. And it was just really important for me because I really see it as creating a container where people can go for this retreat to feel fully held, fully
Yeah.
safe, maybe gain some new spiritual tools, gain some new
Right.
spiritual friends, and
Right.
allow yourself to connect to the land there in Maine, which is so important to
Mm-hmm.
me, and
Yeah.
reconnect to yourself,
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know?
I love that. Um, who is this retreat for?
This retreat is for people who are looking for restoration, who feel
Mm.
disconnected from their soul, who feel disconnected from the land, and
Mm.
need a moment to reconnect to the land, their soul, and also their own inner magic. Like one of my
Yeah.
business mottos is you are your own magic. I literally have that on
Mm-hmm.
some of my merch. And that's why it's called the Maine Magic Retreat, because not only are you connecting to the magic of Maine, but you're connecting to your own inner magic. And like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to give that to you. No one else is going to give that to you.
Yeah.
But I am going to help people remember it in themselves.
Oh, I love that. And when is it? It's in August, yes?
Yeah, like I mentioned, under the moon in Libra. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even realize this when I was planning it, but it starts on 8/8, the Lionsgate portal, which is
Lionsgate portal.
serious
We love a
energy.
good Lionsgate portal.
Yeah, so it's August 8th through 11th in Freeport, Maine, which, like I mentioned, is coastal Maine.
Yeah.
And it is about 40 minutes north of Portland. And there are only 9 spots available. A
So
few
nice
spots
and
are already
intimate.
booked out. Yeah, nice and intimate,
Mm-hmm.
really close. I wanted to be able to like really talk to and get to know
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. I think that's
And
important.
yeah, it is important because I I find that I don't like, even when I went to college, I didn't like
Yeah.
being in a room with more than 15 students when I was like
Same.
learning.
Yeah.
And even though I loved this workshop with Rebecca, there were like 80 people there and it was kind of overwhelming
It's a
for me, I'll
lot.
be
It's a lot of
honest.
energy.
So I realized I really am a person who likes smaller, more intimate groups. And
Yeah.
also, I wanted it to be luxurious. Like the house we're
Yeah.
staying in is a beautiful, beautiful house on coastal Maine with lovely
Mm,
beds and a sauna
mm,
and hammocks outside and a beautiful farmhouse kitchen. And I
uh,
wanted everyone to feel held and
yeah,
comforted. So that's why I wanted to keep it an intimate, tight experience so that
yeah,
people could feel really seen and held.
right. Coastal
Mhm.
Maine in late August sounds just lovely.
Mhm.
Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. And so you said there's still spots left.
Yes, there are.
Okay. So we will link everything in the show notes then for
Yeah.
anybody who's interested in checking it out. And where can the people reach you if they have specific questions, if they want to book a session with you, any of that stuff to see
Mhm.
your offerings, check out your merch?
Yeah, my main website is aldensenergyhealing.com. That's also where you can check out my merch for the shop. It links to my YouTube. It has a contact form. It links to my Instagram.
Okay,
It's all under
great.
the same handle. So if you just search Alden's Energy Healing,
Okay.
you'll find it.
And
And
it'll be
if
in the
you,
show notes, friends,
it'll be
too.
in the show notes as well.
Yes.
So that's the main hub of where to find all my other offerings and my work.
Okay. And we will put a direct link into Maine. You know, friends out there listening, summer is just going. We're about to be in spooky
Mm-hmm.
season. So if you've been itching to do something for yourself, consider this a calling
Mm-hmm.
to invest in yourself in this way. And I think personally, if more of us start looking at experiences as investments in ourselves and investments in our work, I think we would be happier as a collective in general.
I
You know,
agree.
again, going back to that whole money thing, it's like, oh, I shouldn't spend the money, or oh, little Bobby needs this, or like, think of this as an investment in
Mm-hmm.
yourself, an investment in your family, an investment in all that. When your cup is full, you can
Yes.
be a better mother, a better spouse, a better partner, a better parent, a better
Better teacher,
healer,
better
a
healer.
better teacher.
Yeah.
I've learned that personally as well. When
Me
I'm
too.
taken care of, we're at equilibrium,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the fill up your cup thing because as you were
Mm.
talking, I was getting this is something I talk about at Energy Alchemy, but I was getting the image of like the bucket of your capacity. And I was
Mm.
getting the image of the retreat literally helping, like if there are energy leaks where things are spilling out of like holes in the
Mm.
bucket, like retreat and self care literally being like that magic tape that stops water and being like,
It's
okay,
so
I'm just
true.
covering up some of the holes, helping seal up some of these energy leaks, and then also replenishing the bucket so that when you give, you are not giving from a place of frazzledness, you're not giving from a place of burnout,
Right.
but you're giving from a place of authentic overflow of your
Exactly.
abundant
So
energy.
true. And
Hmm.
for those of you that are unfamiliar with energy alchemy, can you just tell us really quick what that is?
Yeah, it is. Energy Alchemy is a course on the ultimate guide to energetic hygiene, and it's all self-led, self-paced, on demand, really juicy, multiple modules and energy healings and meditations I literally do myself, like every
Mm.
day. I'm like in
Wow.
an Uber on the way
Amazing.
to class, and I'm like, okay, gonna do this 10-minute
Yeah, yeah,
energy shielding
yeah.
meditation. So that is
Hmm.
also on my website if you want to check it out.
Very cool. I love it.
Hmm.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me, Alden. This conversation really just got me jazzed up.
Mm,
I love what I do. I love being
yeah.
able to have these conversations. So you already know the drill, friends. You like what you hear, share the episode, share it with a friend, share it with your spouse, share it on the gram, tag us, Ashley Michelle 90 Day, Alden's Energy Healing. DM me. I love reading your DMs. And yeah, leave us a 5-star review, The Goddess Complex.
Hmm.
And I will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now. Hello, friends. I hope you loved today's episode. Make sure you share it with a friend, share it with somebody that you love, and tag me on the gram at Ashley Michelle 90 Day and let me know your thoughts. Leaving that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is literally what helps this work get to the right people. As you may or may not know, we are in the middle of a spiritual revolution, and us being able to get our hands on resources like this podcast and others is what is literally going to make the world go round. So do me this favor and please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share the episode with somebody you love. It really, truly does mean the world to me. I love you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.